Hello dear students, this is Vishal sir from Ikra High School. Today we are going to study chapter 3 Metal Non-Metal from standard 10th NCERT syllabus. Let's start reading the lesson. In class 9 you have learned about various elements. You have seen that elements can be classified as metal or non-metal on the basis of their properties. Think of some uses of metals and non-metals in your daily life. So dear children, the material present around us are grouped widely into metals and non-metals. But can you say by their properties which material is metal and which is non-metal? Let's study about its physical properties and then understand metal non-metal properly. Physical properties of metals. Now, the easiest way to start grouping substance is by comparing their physical properties. Metals are materials holding or possessing the characteristic of being shiny, hard, fusible, malleable, and many more. Let's go through the activities to study all the physical properties of metal. From activity 3.1 to activity 3.6, we are going to study about the physical properties of metal. In activity 3.1, as they have mentioned, we have to take the samples of iron, copper, aluminium and magnesium, and we have to note the appearance of each sample. After that, we have to clean the surface of each sample by rubbing them with a sandpaper and note their appearance again. You will find two different appearance before rubbing the metal and after rubbing the metal. This property, what we are going to study, is called luster. The property of metal, which is in the pure state, usually shines. The shine on the metallic surface is the metallic luster. They shine in light due to the reason that the metal possesses free electron that vibrate on getting in contact with light. Then we have activity 3.2. The same samples are taken and we are trying to see the solid property or the hardness of the material. The second point that you can read here is we have to try to cut this material with a sharp knife and note our observations. So here in this activity 3.2, you will find that generally metals are hard, but the hardness varies from metal to metal. Except for mercury, all metals are solid. Mercury is the only metal which is found in liquid state at room temperature. Metals like sodium and potassium are very soft. They can be easily cut with the help of knife. But metals like copper, silver, aluminium, calcium are very hard. Let's study activity 3.3. Here again the same samples are being hammered constantly. What do you observe? You will observe that the metals turn its shape into thin sheet or they can be beaten into thin sheets. This property is called malleability. Malleability refers to the property of metal by which they can be beaten into thin sheets. One such example is silver metal beaten to make silver foil used for decorating sweets. Next activity 3.4 is about stating the metal from which we can make wires. The ability of metal to be drawn into thin wire is called ductility. Gold is the most ductile metal. You will be surprised to know that a wire of about 2 km length can be drawn from 1 gram of gold. The next property we are studying is ductility. It refers to the property of metal by the virtue of which they can be drawn into thin wires. It is because of their malleability and ductility that metal can be given different shape according to our needs. Now, the next activity 3.5 and 3.6 states the conductivity of our metal. Metals are good conductor of heat and electricity as they can pass through them. We can prove that they are good conductor of heat by activity 3.5. Here, as you can see, the apparatus has been set up. An aluminium rod is been clamped to the stand and pins are attached to it with the wax. While hitting the one end of the metal wire or the metal rod, the pin slowly starts to fall down. This shows that the heat from one end has passed to the other end. That proves that they are good conductor of heat. The best conductor of heat are silver and copper. Lead and mercury are comparatively poor conductor of heat. In activity 3.6, you will notice that the conduction of electricity from metallic wire. Set up an electric circuit as shown in figure 3.2. Place the metal to be tested in a circuit between terminal A and B as shown. Does the bulb glow? What does this indicate? You must have seen that the wire that carry current in your home have a coating of PVC or a rubber-like material. Why are electrical wire coated with such substances? To protect ourselves from electric shock. What happens when metal strikes a hard surface? Do they produce a sound? the metal that produces sound on striking a hard surface are said to be sonorous. So dear students, here they have mentioned two more properties of metal. The electrical conductivity, where you can say that the silver and copper are the best conductor of electricity. However, lead and mercury are poor conductor of electricity. Also, they have a high melting point, except cesium and gallium have very low melting point. The next property was sonorous, or the sound made by the metal on striking. On being struck hard, the metal produces a ringing sound. Due to this property, they are sonorous. Now let's talk about the physical properties of non-metal. Non-metals are material not holding the characteristics of metal. Means they are not shiny, they are not hard, they are not fusible, they are not malleable, they are not ductile. So these type of substances are considered as non-metal. There are very few non-metals compared to metals. Some of the examples of non-metal are carbon, sulfur, iodine, oxygen and hydrogen. The non-metal are either solid, gaseous, except bromine, which is liquid. So here they have given one more activity where you have to take sample of carbon, coal or graphite, sulfur and iodine, and you have to carry out the activity 3.1, 4 and 6, 3.1, 2, 3, 4 and 6 with this non-metal to record our observations. We have to study about the hardness, malleability, ductility, conduction of electricity and its sonority. So on the basis of the observations recorded in 3.1, we can surely say that the non-metals are totally different than metals. Let's go through the points given in the textbook. All metal except mercury exist at solid at room temperature. In activity 3.5, you have observed that metals have high melting points, but gallium and cesium have very low melting points. These two metals will melt if you keep them on your palm. Iodine, which is a non-metal, it is lustrous just like metal. Carbon is a non-metal that can exist in different forms, and each form is called allotrope. Diamond, an allotrope of carbon, is the hardest natural substance. So it is even harder than the metal, known and has a very high melting and boiling point. Graphite, another allotrope of carbon, is a good conductor of electricity. So though we have two different characteristics of metal and non-metal, there are certain non-metals which exhibit the properties of metal. Alkali metal, lithium, sodium, potassium are so soft that we can cut it with a knife. They have low densities and low melting point. Elements can be more clearly classified as metal and non-metal on the basis of their chemical properties also. So dear students, in activity 3.8, you can clearly see that a magnesium ribbon and sulfur powder is taken. We have to burn the magnesium ribbon to make it magnesium oxide, and it should be dissolved in water. Now we have to test the resultant solution of sulfur powder and magnesium ribbon with red and blue litmus paper. What do you observe? What is the color of the litmus paper? Is it blue to red or red to blue? The same process should be considered with sulfur powder. Here you have to place the test tube over the burning sulfur to correct the fumes produced, and you have to add some water above the test tube and shake it. Now we have to consider it with the litmus paper, blue litmus and red litmus test. Mostly you will observe that the non-metal produced acidic oxides. That means the sulfur will produce acidic oxide when dissolved in water, and on the other hand, metals, magnesium, will produce basic oxides. You will be learning more about this metal oxides in the next section. Our next topic is chemical properties of metals. So while studying the chemical properties of metal, we have to collect the samples of following metals: aluminium, copper, iron, lead, magnesium, zinc and sodium. Now we have to go through some experiments. In activity 3.9, as you would need teacher's assistant, because here we have to burn all the samples, or we have to heat all the samples in the presence of air. So just like in activity 3.8, we already had done the magnesium burns in air with a dazzling white flame. Let's conduct all the other samples to see whether they too burn with the same manner. Hold any of the sample taken over with the pair of tongs and try burning over a flame. Repeat with the other metal samples. Collect the product if formed. Let the products and the metal surface cool down. Which metal burns easily? What color flame do you observe when the metal burns? How does the metal surface appear after burning? Arrange the metal in the decreasing order of their reactivity towards oxygen. Are the products soluble in water? Almost all metal combine with oxygen to form metal oxides. So this is the main first property of metal. When you burn a metal or when you heat any metal in the presence of air, it becomes metal oxide. When copper is heated in air, it combines with oxygen to form copper oxide, a black oxide. So here you can see the equation: copper plus oxygen gives copper oxide. Similarly, aluminium forms aluminium oxide. We have learned that metal oxides are basic in nature, but some metal oxides such as aluminium oxide, zinc oxide show both acidic as well as basic behavior. And such metal oxides which react with both acid as well base to produce salt and water are known as amphoteric oxides. So in oxidation also you can see that there are certain metals which react with both acid as well as base. And so these type of metals are called amphoteric oxides. Aluminium oxide react in the following manner. Here you can see aluminium oxide is reacted with acid first and then with a basic. Most metal oxides are insoluble in water, but some of these dissolve into water to form alkalis. These are sodium oxide and potassium oxide that dissolve in water to produce alkalis. As we have observed in activity 3.9 that all metals do not react with the oxygen at the same rate. Different metals show different reactivities towards oxygen. Metals such as potassium and sodium react vigorously. That means they are highly reacted with oxygen as they catch fire if kept in open. Hence, to protect them and to prevent accidental fire, they are kept immersed in kerosene oil. At ordinary temperature, the surface of metals such as magnesium, aluminium, zinc, etc. are covered with a thin layer of oxide. This protective oxide layer prevents the metal from further oxidation. Iron does not burn on heating, but iron filings burn vigorously when sprinkled in the flame of the burner. Copper does not burn, but hot metal is coated with black colored layer of copper oxide. Silver and gold do not react with oxygen even at high temperatures. So not every metal react in the same manner with oxygen. Certain metals form their oxides, certain metals do not react at all, while some, when their physical state is changed, it reacts, otherwise it not. Just in the case of iron, as you can see over here, iron does not burn on heating, but iron fillings burn vigorously when sprinkled in the flame of burner. So after performing activity 3.9, you must have observed that sodium is the most reactive of the samples of the metal taken there. The reaction of magnesium is less vigorous, implying that it is not as reactive as sodium. But burning in oxygen does not help us to decide about the reactivity of zinc, iron, copper or lead. Let us see some more reactions to arrive at a conclusion about the order of reactivity series of metals. Now let's react metal with water. In activity 3.10, as you can see, we have to take the same samples as you have taken in activity 3.9. So here we are going to take all the samples and we are going to take some test tube with cold water, some with hot water or some with normal water, and then we are trying to experiment all the samples with the given water. Here also you will need teacher's assistance. Put some pieces of samples separately in beaker half filled with cold water. Which metal reacted with cold water? Arrange them in the increasing order of their reactivity with cold water. Did any metal produce fire on water? Does any metal start floating after some time? Put the metal that did not react with cold water in beaker half filled with hot water. For the metal that did not react with hot water, arrange the apparatus shown in figure 3.3 and observe their reaction with steam. Which metal did not react even with the steam? Arrange the metal in the decreasing order of the reactivity with water. So here is the apparatus that you have to arrange for reaction of those metal which do not react with hot water or cold water. Metal react with water to produce a metal oxide and hydrogen gas. Metal oxide are soluble in water. dissolve it in further form metal hydroxide. But all metal do not react with water. So when you react a metal with water, it becomes metal oxide and it also releases hydrogen gas. The metal oxide, when still kept in water, it becomes metal hydroxide. Let's talk about the highly reactive metal, potassium and sodium. They react violently with cold water. In case of sodium and potassium, the reaction is so violent and exothermic that the evolved hydrogen gas immediately catches fire. So, this is a dangerous experiment to be done without any precautions. The reaction of calcium with water is less violent. The heat evolved is not sufficient for hydrogen to catch fire. But here also, heat is produced. That means it is an exothermic reaction. Calcium starts floating, as you have mentioned in the experiment. Which element starts floating, or which metal starts floating when kept in water? Here it is, the calcium starts floating. So why does calcium starts floating in water? Because the bubbles of hydrogen gas which produced on reaction with water, it sticks to the surface of the metal, and because of it the calcium starts floating. Magnesium does not react with cold water. It reacts with hot water and form magnesium hydroxide and hydrogen. It also starts floating due to the bubbles of hydrogen gas sticking to the surface. So here you will have two metals, calcium and magnesium, which floats in water. Calcium is reacted in cold water, while magnesium does not react with cold water. It is reacted in hot water. Metals like aluminium, iron and zinc do not react either with cold or hot water, but they react with steam to form metal oxide and hydrogen. Metals such as lead, copper, silver and gold do not react with water at all. So here also you will find the differentiation of metal with reaction of water. Some metals did not reacted at all, just like lead, copper, silver and gold, while some metal reacted only with the steam. They did not reacted with cold water, normal water or hot water. While some metal did not reacted with cold water. They were reacted only with hot water. Now what happens when metal react with acid? Actually, it gives salt and hydrogen gas. But we have to observe here whether all metals react in the same manner. Collect all the metal sample except sodium and potassium again. These are highly reactive metal, and now we are not going to experiment with acid for sodium and potassium. If the samples are tarnished, rub them clean with sandpaper. Put the samples separately in test tube containing dilute hydrochloric acid. Suspend thermometers in the test tube so that their bulbs are dipped in acid. Observe the rate of formation of bubbles carefully. Which metal reacted vigorously with dilute hydrochloric acid? Which metal did you record the highest temperature? Arrange the metal in the decreasing order of reactivity with dilute acid. Write equation for the reaction of magnesium, aluminium, zinc and iron with dilute hydrochloric acid. Hydrogen gas is not evolved when metal react with nitric acid. So dear students, you have to note over here that hydrogen gas will not be evolved when you react any metal with nitric acid. Otherwise, the reaction for magnesium, aluminium, zinc and iron with dilute hydrochloric acid will be releasing hydrogen gas. And why doesn't it react with nitric acid? Because nitric acid is a strong oxidizing agent. As soon as it forms hydrogen, it will directly change it into water. So it oxidizes the hydrogen produced to water and itself get reduced to any of the nitrogen oxide. But magnesium and manganese react with dilute nitric acid to evolve hydrogen gas. You must have observed in activity 3.11 that the rate of formation of bubble was fastest in the case of magnesium. The reaction was almost exothermic in this case. The reactivity decreases in the order magnesium, then aluminium, then zinc and iron. So magnesium reacted faster, a little bit slower was aluminium, then concluded with zinc and the last was iron. In the case of copper, no bubbles were seen and the temperature also remained unchanged. This shows that copper does not react with dilute hydrochloric acid. How do metal react with solutions of metal salts? Now let's do another experiment, experiment 3.12. Take a clean wire of copper and iron nail. Put the copper wire in a solution of iron sulfate and the iron nail in the solution of copper sulfate taken in test tube. Record your observations after 20 minutes. In which test tube did you find the reaction has occurred? On what basis can you say the reaction has actually taken place? Write a balanced chemical equation for the reaction that has taken place and the type of reaction. So here you can see if in diagram 3.4 there are two test tube. Test tube with the blue one is the copper sulfate solution and iron nail is kept in it, while in the second test tube you can find copper wire is attached with the string and the solution is iron sulfate solution. Now if you see over here in this reaction, reactive metals can displace less reactive metals from their compound in solution or molten form. This you had already studied in chapter 1. So here in the first test tube there certainly will be reaction forming. The blue color of the test tube will be changing to brown color and the nail would be seen just like reddish brownish color. But in this second test tube there will be no reaction at all, as copper is less reactive than iron, so copper won't displace iron from iron sulfate solution, but iron will certainly displace copper from copper sulfate solution. Displacement reaction studied in chapter 1 give better evidence about the reactivity of metal. It is simple and easy. If metal A displaces metal B from the solution, it is more reactive than B. Metal A plus salt of B, salt of A plus metal B. The reaction would be something like this. So this is the metal copper which is less reactive than iron, and so copper does not show any reaction in the second test tube, while iron definitely shows reaction in the first test tube. This brings to our conclusion the reactivity series. The reactivity series is actually a list of metal arranged in the order of their decreasing activity. So all the experiments that you have performed brings us to this conclusion that the most reactive metal should be written at the very top level, and after that all the other metals should be concluded. While you can see here gold, which is the least reactive, or it does not react with acid, it does not react with water, it does not react with heat, it does not react with anything. So that is the least reactive metal, while potassium is a highly reactive metal. As soon as you just bring potassium out of that container, it may start burning due to the presence of oxygen in the atmosphere. After performing displacement experiments, the following series known as the reactivity or activity series has been developed. So dear children, the reactivity series of metals and non-metals are the list in which we arrange them in the decreasing order of their chemical activities. It is also known as the activity series. The reactivity series help us to predict the capability of the metal to displace another metal during a displacement reaction. Just like as we had done the experiment of iron and copper, you had seen that the copper is displaced by iron in copper sulfate solution because iron was more reactive than copper. It also determines the reactivity of particular metal with oxygen, cold water, hot water or steam and the acid. Thank you children.